Hello, and this is Zach with MagicGatheringStrat.com. I'm recording a daily today with Mono Green Devotion. I won the die roll, and I'm going to choose to go first. This hand does have double Burning Tree. Has a Courser. It lacks Accelerants, though, which makes us really vulnerable to things like Thoughtseize, or Aggressive Curve Outs, or the Mirror. On the draw, I'd probably keep this. On the play, I just can't. Whoops. Okay, I'm keeping. Clearly, what I need to work on with my Magic the Gathering playing skills is my ability to click buttons that say keep or mulligan. I can pull up the list here while we wait for him to respond. Trying out some interesting one-ofs right now. This is most likely getting... Hunter's Prowess is most likely getting cut from the list, but it's been a fun one-of to try out. The Soul of New Phyrexia gives us a good chance game 1 against blue-white control, which is actually a really problem matchup with the Planar Cleansing building being the primary build now. Still waiting on my opponent to respond. We are playing the full set of 12 Mana Dorks with 22 land, which is a bit less than most decks, but I value the acceleration over hitting the land drops, which could be erroneous on my part, but I'm still working on the deck. In my experience, hands without mana acceleration just simply do not function with this deck, which is why I was hesitant to keep this hand and why I didn't want to. The Genesis Hydras most likely should go up to 4 at the cost of another Chord of Calling, but I have been hesitant to switch over to that. Genesis Hydra so far has been really overperforming. Even Genesis Hydras for 2 or 3 have been pretty good. Like the ability to cast a 3/3 that hits a Caryatid or a Burning Tree Shaman, a Burning Tree Emissary is enough. And that's really the question with cards like Genesis Hydra and Chord of Calling. Obviously, they're going to be absurd when you cast them for 10 or 7 or 6. The question is whether or not they're good enough when you cast them for 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. Chord of Calling for 1 or 2 is obviously just a mana dork, same with Genesis Hydra. But for 3 or 4, being able to get Eidolon or Courser off the top, as well as a 4/4 in the case of Hydra, makes it actually rather good. We're going to awkwardly play our first land and not cast a spell. Hope we don't get Thoughtseize and hope we draw a Caryatid. Caryatid would be really nice with this hand. Opponent's still playing a little on the slow side. And actually this week, trying to record the video, I tried out a number of different decks. I tried out the Red-White Soldiers deck from the Pro Tour. It was very inconsistent. I was not happy with the way the deck performed. And some games I lost with it were things that just you shouldn't have to play around in Standard. I got triple negated out of a Bant deck in a game 1. And things like that happened to me with the deck. And it's just the power level of the deck. It resembles a lot of the Rabble Red, or the Tom Ross, the Boss Sly deck, in the sense that we're playing just a huge amount of 1-drops. But the Obelisk of Urds, while giving you a more powerful late game plan, actually can make your early game draws a lot clunkier in a deck which really, if more consistently lower on the curve, would better perform. Because there's often times with the deck where on turn 3 or 4, instead of attacking for 7, you cast an Obelisk and attack for 3. And those just really aren't plays that I felt good making. and I felt like the deck trapped me into them. Other decks I tried out this week were a blue-white devotion deck with white being the primary color. I 3-1'd a daily with it. It was meh. I really don't know how to describe this deck. It's very confused. Like, you want to be casting these early 2-drops into Supreme Verdict. You're very good against other mid-rangey decks. And post-board, I even managed to win a match against Blue-White because they didn't plan around Jace, Memory Adept, and Dictates of Heliod, and they were boarding into a creature plan. So my creature plan with Dictate was just better than their creature plan. But the deck really stumbled versus itself, largely. Against a mono-blue deck, they managed to hit our only mono-blue card being Thassa. The next turn they hit Hollowed Fountain, then they hit Ithara, and that just felt bad. Like, obviously that's not something that will happen very often with the build, but it was a lot of bad feelings. Our opponent's kinda here. Oh. Tap Stomping Ground leads me to believe Jund Planeswalkers. Still didn't draw a mana dork. Really need to hit a land or a dork next turn. Land would be ideal. We'll deal with a dork. If he casts a Caryatid here, we just got nothing going on. We can attack for 2. Yep, looks like Jund Planeswalkers to me. Okay. Okay, he's Dreadboring our Burning Tree. I'll take that. We can't really afford to wait to play the Courser here because our development's just so slow. If we can get a land off the top, it'll be really nice for us because we can actually cast the Eidolon and save the Courser for next turn. His draw is also one of the slower draws of Jund Planeswalkers. Games where they don't have an accelerant are games we're favored in my opinion. Even though we also don't have an accelerant, we go over the top of them, and their only way to get us is they actually become the aggro deck, oddly enough. Because they can't go late with us. They have one card which can compete with us late, and that's Nissa. And Nissa only competes with us late to a certain point. And if they're playing Nissa on 5, in general, we'll develop fast enough that Nissa on 5 isn't good enough. If he spends this next turn answering Courser again, or answering one of our creatures, we're happy. Doing things like Dreadboring a Burning Tree is just not ideal for him because Burning Tree is our weakest creature. Burning Tree is green, irrelevant text after it resolves. Our opponent's still playing rather slowly, though. Other decks I tried out this week for the video series that just weren't good. I was working on a red-white devotion deck, a red-white mid-range deck. The issue with trying to play a mid-range deck right now in Standard that isn't black-based is you're just really not favored against black-based devotion. Especially now that they have white to answer things like Assemble a Legion. They're just going to be more consistent than you, and the addition of Thoughtseize in their deck will just make them able to take apart your game plan while keeping their game plan together. Which was also the problem I had with the Naiad mid-range deck I was working on. Oh, our opponents decided to respond. Jund Planeswalker's post-board, though, depending on how much hate they decide to have against the aggro decks, can be very bad for us. Because we take a lot of splash damage from particularly Anger of the Gods, because Anger of the Gods hits all our accelerants. Drown in Sorrow hitting most of our accelerants is still pretty bad, but it's beatable. Anger of the Gods is generally just a blowout. Okay, so he's cast his Elvish Mystic. We really want to land on top here. Yes. And then our land on top after that. I'm actually not upset with that. We're just going to play this Eidolon, draw a card, and attack for 4. Our mana's just developing really nicely, and he's not putting that much pressure on us. Playing the Elvish Mystic means he's not playing some sort of weird Jund brew with Anger of Gods, which, as I was just saying, is a real problem. These decks sometimes have a 1 of Golgari Charm that can give us a bit of problems. He most likely wants to kill the Eidolon, like, this turn. And even if that happens, we're pretty okay with that, because then we just play Courser and Sylvan Caryatid and say go. We'd ideally like to not have our Eidolon die, but ideally we'd like to have none of our creatures die ever. If he casts Nissa this turn, I feel like our hand, as currently composed, can race a Nissa. Ideally, this deck should be probably playing a Nissa or 2 main deck. The issue that I have is Nissa right now is, in my opinion, overpriced. I don't think she remains near as good after rotation. And that's largely based on speculation of the power of Elspeth and block. Elspeth beats Nissa, in the sense that if Nissa's sitting there making 4/4s, and you can hold off the 4/4s until you can cast an Elspeth, Elspeth comes down and wipes all the 4/4s. Okay. My color scheme just got changed to Windows Basic. Probably due to the amount of resources that recording plus playing Moto's taking up. Looks like this is a Nissa. Oh, Vraska. Okay. Oh, ticking up. That's weird. So we just want to play this land off the top. Cast our Courser, draw a card. Cast our Sylvan Caryatid. We don't want to trade for this Vraska. We're just going to hit him for 6. I think we're highly favored from this position. He could have Mizzium Mortars this turn. That would be brutal. Okay. He had Mizzium Mortars. So I think we just Genesis Hydra for 3? For 4, sorry. And see what we can hit. Okay. We hit a Caryatid. It's not the worst. He can make tokens with Vraska this turn, but those are unlikely to get there unless he has another Mizzium Mortars. If he has another Mizzium Mortars plus ultimating this Vraska, we probably can't win. Next turn, it's theoretical we could get 3 more creatures out. We'd have to Genesis Hydra for X minus 1 and cast our Elvish Mystic. It's looking... Oh, Chandra. Okay. Okay, he had an Elvish Mystic off Chandra. We'll see what he decides to do with the Vraska here. Okay, so he's just killing the Genesis Hydra, which makes us feel just a lot safer. Means he doesn't have a Mizzium Mortars in hand. And Mizzium Mortars was definitely a card from this spot that could just beat us. We are just going to cast this for 6 because any number of Elvish Mystics we cast just get eaten by Chandra. Beautiful. That's what we wanted to hit. We're going to play this Garruk. Garruk currently can't die on the board. Oh, never mind. I lied. Garruk dies to this Vraska immediately. But then we get to keep a Genesis Hydra. We hit Nylea, Burning Tree, Elvish Mystic, which is a pretty good hit for us. Yeah. This game's turning around quick again. He probably has to use Vraska to kill Garruk, which means we might get to keep this Genesis Hydra. Next turn we just get to kind of vomit all our creatures back onto the board. Chandra exiled an Abrupt Decay, which will kill Genesis Hydra. Vraska will kill Garruk. These are all good things for him, but I'm still feeling like we're in a good spot. He has an Arland tapped. Like, the issue is right now he's not actually getting ahead unless he casts a Xenagos right here. Yeah, that's a Xenagos. Okay. He is only at 4, though. So, we just need to get 4 points of damage across, which with an Nylea shouldn't be too difficult. I don't think we can afford to play around another Mizzium Mortars. I just don't think we have that luxury. Okay. So I guess we're going to cast this Eidolon of Blossoms. Draw a card. Cast that Burning Tree Emissary. I'm actually going to cast an Nylea here to draw another card. Hopefully hit a Forest. Hit a Nykthos. Okay. So now he needs a Mizzium Mortars. He exiled a card with Chandra. He had Stomping Grounds. That's not going to do anything. Xenagos can't attack us anymore. Vraska's going to plus up to an irrelevant number. Cool thing about Elvish Mystic with Nykthos is it's actually just free. Each time we play an Elvish Mystic, we just gain it back in devotion to Nykthos. Next turn we have 6 devotion. So we can pump once, twice. We can pump twice. Which would give us a 6/6 Burning Tree Emissary. With a dish. So we'd have 8 points of trample damage and 6 points of regular damage, which he'll have to chump with an Elvish Mystic. And he'll chump 5, so we'll go to 1. Cool. So he's dead to Burning Tree Emissary. If he has removal in hand, he might be in a better spot than it looks like on board. If only you didn't have Defender, Sylvan Caries did. The old Defender Trample combo. I always like it when my defenders have Trample. Allows them to get in for more damage. Opponent's tanking here for a while. He's down to 12 minutes on his clock. We're still sitting at a healthy 21. I've seen a couple of these Jund Walkers lists running around with like an Unravel into Aether in the main deck. By how long he's taking on it, I would suspect he doesn't have one. He might be thinking about a Chandra, casting another Chandra out of his hand, exiling another card. Or he could just be playing in our game. Could be double queued. I haven't actually tried to double queue much on the new client. It takes up enough resources trying to single queue. Yeah, this is the Bant deck that I was talking about earlier. It's got some nice things going for it. Like, one of the things I really want to try to do is Xenagos plus a token spawner. To try to use the plus ability on Xenagos to activate Soul of the Red Soul. But this probably isn't the shell for it. A straight up red-green devotion deck or green-red devotion deck. Green-red devotion can't do it because it can't get enough red mana most likely, but red-green devotion might be able to do it. The issue then is red-green devotion doesn't make that many creatures, so it can't really use the plus to make the mana. It just seems like a thing I want to abuse somehow. So we're just going to run out a bunch of Elvish Mystics. So let's think of how much mana we have right now. Our devotion is 5, 6, 7. So if we tap 2 more to cast this... Actually, no, we shouldn't cast this just in case he does draw the Mizzium Mortars. But we can activate... We have 5 untapped. So 7. Okay, so we can activate 3 times. Which should be enough by my math. Unless he has a removal spell. We're going to try to go more in on the Burning Tree Emissary than the Eidolon of Blossoms because we'd rather have the Eidolon live than the Burning Tree. Everything's just going to go at him. The Elvish Mystic has to jump in the way of Nylea. Okay. So because of the way Trample works, we might as well pump our Eidolon. Because it's going to die no matter what. So I'll make it a 4/4. That'll make it a 6/6. Now there's no reason to pump it anymore because now it lives the combat, so let's pump the Burning Tree Emissary. And let's see what happens. As of now, he's dead. If he kills the Burning Tree Emissary, okay. So now he's going to take one. We're going to board wipe him. And he needs to hit Mizzium Mortars or bust. We'll see if he hits it with the Chandra. Overgrown Tomb resembles Mizzium Mortars in many ways. Mainly in the ways that it cannot cast Mizzium Mortars, nor does it deal damage to anything, nor does it have Overload, nor does it cost mana. Really, it resembles Mizzium Mortars in no particular way. That is a... wow. Okay. That's a new one out of... I used to see it on the old Jund Monsters list occasionally, or the Jund Midrange list, but I've not seen one out of Jund Planeswalkers. Absolutely no reason to show him that we have a Hornet Queen main deck. He didn't even tick up Vraska, so I'm assuming he doesn't have a follow-up after this turn. Just gonna pump the Eidolon again. Make him use the black mana if he really wants to. He has to kill at least one of our Mystics. If he kills one of our Mystics in response, we pump the other one. He actually needs to pump our kill one of our okay, there we go. And that's that. So against Jund Walkers, this is a matchup I've been working on. I've not really figured out how to make this matchup better for us. The lack of Thoughtseize means the Peregrination plan isn't what we're on. This is a way of playing around Thoughtseize by allowing us to have cards that act as double mana. In my experience, we really just want more threats against them. And the Nylea's Disciple main deck does nothing. Reclamation Sage does... Reclamation Sage hits Coursers. So I generally like one over the Court of Calling because we're not really worried about hitting bullets. And Hunter's Prowess is good because it can kill a Planeswalker or draw us cards when we're behind on board. It's possible we want the Arbor Colossus because it's huge, which is really good against Nissa, which is one of our problem cards in their deck. But I'm actually going to try the Hunter's Prowess this time and see how it goes. Jund's Planeswalkers is a really weird deck for us to play against because it doesn't... The matchup ends up being... We are more favored to aggro him out than he'd aggro us out in the very early turns. And in the mid-range game, he wins, but in the late game, we win. So he has this narrow window in the middle where he just can crush us. Cards like Anger of the Gods, Mizzium Mortars, just destroy us in the mid-game. I kept this hand because as a mana accelerant, we're not that vulnerable to Anger of the Gods. We have a lot of land to cast our spells, and we have some sort of card advantage engine, and a threat. So, everything I'm looking for. I'm going to play my cool Zendikar Forest first. Always play your cool land first. So he has his own Caryatid. That's what we want to see. The other thing is, like, our Planeswalker generates so much more card advantage than their Planeswalker. Are we getting Angered? Or Courser? Anger would be really weird here. There's no way it's an Anger. If he has an Anger, I'd be delighted for him to cast it, though. I will happily trade 2 for 1 and his turn to just go land, Satyr, go. Okay, Courser. Much more reasonable. Reaper of the Wild's on top. So it's a question of playing around Anger here. Because if we run out all our mana dorks, we can for sure cast a Garruk next turn. But I don't think that's actually good here. I think we just want to cast our Eidolon, draw a card, get this Nylea into play next turn, and an Elvish Mystic, then we have Devotion to Nylea. We draw another card. If he kills the Eidolon this turn, next turn we'll tap out for the Mana Dorks, most likely, depending on what we draw. Well, actually, we'll probably only just cast the Nylea and Elvish Mystic. We have no real reason to run into Anger of Gods here. Ideally, I'd like him just to cast the, whatchamacallit, the Reaper of the Wild. I'm not that concerned about Reaper of the Wild. It puts on some pressure, but not that much. Looks like it's a Reaper of the Wild. Yep. Gonna hit us for 2. We can't block. Well, we can. Not going to. Oh. So, actually, we're gonna give him a really juicy target for that Dreadbore. This also strengthens us versus the Mizzium Mortars he might have in his hand. Because now if he Mizzium Mortars us, we still get to keep our Polukranos. This is just a green creature, isn't it? We can't put a Soul of New Phyrexia in. Yeah, dang. And it looks like he has the Mizzium Mortars. Or he has an R6 mass spell. Okay, so he Dreadboard our Polukranos. And a Chandra. Okay. Things are not looking good for us right now. At least he got no value from those Scries. He really wants his Garruk, which, to be fair, seems incredibly good against our current position. This game is not looking favorable for the home team. Let's try to draw into a land. Land. Caryatid. Hit Chandra for 2. Does he have the untapped land to cast the Garruk? Hopefully no. Nice thing about Nylea is unless he can kill off our Eidolon, it just halts his aggro. Other upside is we're likely to win on time if we go to a game 3. Unless he has something to kill us quick here. Looks like it's a Mizzium Mortars. Yeah. So we're going to take 6 down to 5. He's going to try to scry into a land. Yeah, this one's not looking good for us. It's also good to know that we have not seen Anger of the Gods yet, and we've actually seen quite a few cards of his deck because of Reaper of the Wilds and Courser. Like, it's possible if he thinks he's going to win here, no matter what I do, that he shouldn't be scrying. Because we're so ahead on time, we have no reason to concede. He can put us to 5. Woof! That was a good Garruk. If he just attacks us here, we're dead. We'll see if he sees it. Yep. Going straight in for the kill. So it looks like he's a bit different than the normal Jund Planeswalkers deck. Um, I think we are going to want that. Reclamation Sage still seems fine. Yeah, it looks good. I still think Peregrination only comes in versus Thoughtseize decks. Yeah, that is a terrible hand. That's a decent hand. It's doing what we want to do. So because we drew another Sylvan Caryatid, we're actually not going to cast our Courser. Well, actually, sorry. We're going to cast Eidolon next turn. And then Courser the turn after. He might have Anger of the Gods by this start. Friends on Elvish Mystic. Okay, I feel much better now. Anger of the Gods is much less likely after playing an Elvish Mystic. So we're just going to cast this Eidolon. Draw a card. Next turn we can slam Courser, Caryatid. Oh, okay. Still gonna make my land drop. I actually kind of want to get some threats on the board. It doesn't feel like he has Anger of the Gods. We also have plenty of mana from our lands alone, so this allows us to pressure Planeswalkers if he plays them. Like, if he casts a Nissa here, we can actually just attack the Nissa. Nothing go. Oh, that was so bad. Shouldn't have done that. That was terrible. Draw a card. Don't be a land on top. Okay, didn't get punished for it. Looks like we might be getting Mizzium Mortars here, which is not ideal. Okay, yeah, the untapped land. Mortars me? Yep. Alright. Land, Nissa, go. Do you just have the 7 mana? Wow. That's a good curve. What's the element on this thing? Yeah. Seems decent. I think our best draw is Hornet Queen here. For a multitude of reasons. Okay. This is a real one. We'll see what we can hit. We need good stuff. I don't know if that qualifies. I guess we grab Burning Emissary. Really need a way to kill this Garruk. Because I don't think I can go over the top of this Garruk ultimate. Ideally, I'd like him to actually just attack with all the beasts and the Reaper. Oh, come on. How could it ever go wrong? Oh! Yeah, that's game. He had his own Soul of New Phyrexia. Cards I did not see coming today. It kind of sucks, like, I don't think there's a lot we can do against the curve of Mizzium Mortars into Garruk Apex Predator. Like, it's just a very powerful curve versus us. I definitely could have played around the Mizzium Mortars more, but I felt like our rebuild was good enough. Slash, I was playing into our Eidolon, so if we could draw some gas, I feel like we were favored. We'll see if he decides to ultimate the Garruk. There's some small chance he doesn't. Might as well make him do it. Alright, he did it. I can't imagine we can live this combat.